So today and the next 3 lectures, like I said, we are going to be creating a React News site. We are going to try to, so there's a Hacker News website that gives a lot of cool, like good tech information. So we're going to be trying to recreate this in a sense. Today, we're going to start off with data that I've already pulled from an API. So we just have the data to work with. We don't have to worry about pulling it. We're just going to use static data from the JSON files that I just shared. So before we start developing an application, we kind of want to decide how do we want to structure this? So we look at this website. This is kind of like, let's say this is our mock-up. This is generally how we want our website to look like. So we look and we try to see what components can we create out of this page, because we know that when we're developing our application, we have our app, which is our biggest component. That's our encompassing component. And then within that, we section things off into separate components. So let me try to see if I can annotate on this real quick. Okay, so let's say this is our website. What components do you see immediately?
We've got the nav bar.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some authentication there in the top right.
Okay.
And then basically the main feed, I guess.
So this is its own component.
Yeah, so everything in that gray is going to be its own component, basically below the nav bar.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'll do a different color. I don't know why it keeps moving up. So basically this entire portion is one component. This is one component. And then what else? So within this big component, we see that each one of these rows has the same structure pretty much. So we have a title up here. We have, I guess this is the URL to whatever link is gonna be clicked. And then it has some more information down here. It has the ability to hide. So I would also say this one row is a component as well. Okay, so let's say right now we have our nav bar at the top. So that's one component. We have our body of our page. So that's a second one. We have our article. Okay, let me stop the annotation thing. Okay, there we go. And so for these ones, when we click, they actually reroute us to a page. What we're going to demonstrate first is being able to click on one of these and then get some more information below it. So maybe opening an actual article component. So let's say our components that we're creating today are going to be a nav bar, an article teaser, so just a little bit of information around the article, and then when you click on it, then you get more information about the article. So it won't look exactly like this today, but we're gonna explore some features. Okay, so let's start off by creating our project. So we had a few people saying about NPM versus NPX. So NPM is for Node Package Manager, and NPX is for Node Package Executable. So once you have your package already installed with NPM, you can use NPX to run it, but NPM also works to run it. So if I wanted to say, npm create vite, that would work. If I do npx create vite, that would work as well. So, but the only thing is you don't usually install anything with npx. You install things with npm. So if I do this, could not determine. Okay, so let's just use npm, but you might see it. Yeah, okay. Let's not use this one. It worked the other day. But anyways, that's the difference between npm and npx. There might be like a syntax difference, so you might need to put things in different places. But okay, npm create vite. My project name, I'm gonna call it React News Site 1. News Site I. Okay. You can use React and JavaScript. And there we go. So it's been created. Now we do these commands, right? So cd React News Site, npm install. Awesome. So we saw our node modules pop up. It's finishing up. Okay. And now npm run dev to see if it works. It's on full host 5173. And there we go. We have our base base app. Okay, so first thing I want to do is grab the data, my static data. I'm just going to create a folder called data. I can put it here. I can put it up here. I'm actually not sure of the more correct way to do it. But for now, I'm just going to put it inside my source folder. So the data, I just need to copy it real quick from somewhere. So you guys can do this as well while we're doing this. Where is it? There we go. Oops. So this is my news.json, and then this is my sections.json. So the sections file. Sorry.
Where are you getting this from?
I just posted them to Slack. I shared it with you guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So take a moment to download them and just drag them into the data folder that you just created inside of your source. And while you do that, I'll just explain what the files are. So sections.json is a JSON file with a list of objects. Each object is containing a label for our navbar. So these will correspond to, in our news site up here, news, past, comments, and so on. So those are all.
Zainab, was there a mechanism for us to actually see? I haven't reconciled the sections list you gave us, but could have we actually extracted this list of labels from the Y Combinator site?
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I just created this on my own. Yeah, so I just looked here and I just grabbed all of these, not grabbed, but I just wrote the JSON file. Okay. Does anyone have any, or did anyone not get these files? Are you guys still?
Can you just drag and drop from the Slack channel into your actual VS Code?
Probably you have to download them first, and then you can drag them into VS Code.
Yeah, I just downloaded them from Slack and then told it to just put them right in the data folder.
I did a cut and paste.
Yeah, if any one of those works. Okay, so again, our sections is just the different data tabs up here. And then news.json, that is a list of different news articles. So let's explore this. Let's explore our data real quick. Let's see what's in here. So each article, each object has quite a few data points. There aren't too many. There's created at, so you have your timestamp. There's a title. There's a URL to the actual article. And then it has an author. So these are the ones that we're gonna care about today, as well as object ID down here, line 17. So object ID is the unique ID for the story. So we're gonna use that as our identifier for these stories.
Did you make this or did you pull this from somewhere?
So this one I actually pulled from an API that we're going to be using. So not tomorrow, the day after, we are going to be using the Hacker News. So there's an official Hacker News API. It's not super great. So there are other people who made a Hacker News API on top of it that is actually easily searchable. So I used this one, hn.algolia.com. So this one allows me to grab the data. Like I said, in a few lectures, we're gonna actually grab the data and have it be dynamically fresh. So, but yeah, so for now, we're just gonna use the ones that I pulled from this morning. But yeah, the object ID, author, URL, title, created at, those are mostly the ones that we're gonna be using. I don't really see anything else of value. Yeah, this is just more information around the object up there. Okay. So let's go into our app.jsx to start making our app. So I'm going to delete everything inside of this big div, this main div. I'm also going to delete the line 6, which is the use state that that was built in. I don't want to use that. I'm going to delete the React logo import. I can keep the CSS. I could also remove it. I'll keep it for now, just so my app feels a little prettier. Okay, so like we said, there's a few components that we want to add into this. So our app is going to hold all of our components, and it tracks the state of the components for our demo today. We are also going to be creating 3 other components. So I'm going to create a folder called components in my source folder. Components. I'm going to create 3 files. One is called appnav.jsx. I'm also going to create article teaser.jsx, as well as not a folder, on a file, article.jsx. Okay, so we have our 3 folders here, or sorry, our 3 files. And I'm just going to scaffold them out real quick. So I think I can put the export default in front of this. We'll see if it works. So functions, one is called appnav. And inside we have a return. Sorry, render. Is it return or render? It's return. And then I'm just going to put a div in here. There we go. I'm going to say, I'm just going to put app nav over here. Okay. So the reason I put the export default here is so I don't have to add the extra line here, export default component name. So app nav is just easier. Okay. So let's do that. I'm going to copy over to my article teaser. I'm just going to change the name up here. Wherever you can have less code, better. Okay, so this is our article teaser, and then our article component. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to paste the same code that I wrote. Article, and this is our article. Okay. So far, all we did was create these 3 new components. So let's import our app nav into our app and our article teaser. Actually, let's just import them all the 3, just so we can see that they were created properly. So I'm going to import app nav. Article teaser, and then article. Okay, so if I display all 3, okay, and if I save this, I should see what was displayed in the divs. So just 3 texts. So we have our app nav, our article teaser, and our article. I actually don't like that it's going into the middle of the page, so I'm just going to comment out the app.css. Let me see what that does. Okay, it's in the middle there, and then I can go into my main.jsx and comment out this CSS file as well. So now there's no styling at all, it's just this. We can play around with that later. Okay. So our app nav, let's worry about that later. Let's start with our article teaser. So let's go into that and see what we want to display in this article. Actually, we don't have any data to display, so we don't really know what we can display, right? We have our data that is in our JSON file, but it's not really doing anything. It's just sitting there for now. So we would want to go in and grab it. Let's go to, so this is our news that we want to grab. I'm going to my app.jsx. You can say import data from, so this data is just any name that I'm giving it. So I have to specify where my file is. So I want to import my news.json data. So I'm going to call this actually news data. So import news data from ./data/news.json. And what this does is it's going to import the news data as it is. So in here, it's a list of objects. So this news data object will be a list of objects. So the imports are very easy here. We can just do this import line, and now news data contains a list of our news objects that are in here. So if I want to make sure that I'm getting the proper information, I can just print it real quick. So I'm going to do a console log. I'm going to go over here in my console and then refresh. So now I'm getting an array of 30 objects, and each object is that one article information object. So it seems like I'm going to be using this data quite a bit. So I think instead of just using a normal, just a normal variable, I can use state. So I already have use state imported from the scaffold of this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new state. I'm going to call this all articles. And then, sorry if it's hard to see. I feel like it's a little, okay. All articles, and then set all articles. Use state. And let's say right now it's an empty list. So because I have my news data over here, I could actually set this initial state to this news data information that I have already. So instead of instantiating it with an empty list, I can actually just send in the data that I want. So I can either just say news data here, and this will now make all those news articles be inside of this all articles state, or I can actually loop through this, and I can loop through this, and I can grab only the stuff that I want. So in here, I only want, let's say, these 4 data points and this one. So I can use that if I want. Okay, let me just check in to see how are you guys doing. Are you guys at the same point as I am?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
people were just-
everyone's talking about getting multiple console logs in their in their dev tools. And
Yeah.
one is like pointing to app.jsx, and the
Mhm.
other one is pointing to VM, which I'm assuming is like virtual machine. It says debugger. So I don't know if it's some extension that I have or what, but
No, that is, so the double render is because inside of this main.jsx, the React strict mode does a render check before it actually renders to the page. So because it's doing that, it kind of renders twice.
Okay.
So yeah, this is just because of this. It's for debugging. Yeah. Yeah, so don't be alarmed when you do see 2 of them. So if you remove this, you can test it out. If you remove this, you'll only see it once. So I can comment this one out, this one out. If I refresh, I only see it once.
Which CSS did we comment out to?
I commented out both of them. So there are 2 CSS files, one inside of our main.jsx file, and then one that's imported into our app.jsx. So I just commented out both so we can get like the base no styling.
Oh, okay, got it.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So like I said, we have our news data. We're gonna set our all articles to be news data, but I don't actually want to hold on to all of this extra information. Like all of this, I'm never gonna use. All of this stuff, I'm never gonna use. So I might as well only hold on to the information that I want. So can someone give me an idea of how to do that? So here, uh-huh,
You could probably
All-
just set it, go ahead, whoever that.
Sorry, just call to the one you want, whatever the path is, and to get that information. I don't know what. So it'd be like, what was it, news section, right?
news data.
News data. So you would just call into like to the array and then to the dictionary, whichever the steps are, like I think it's created add, I think is the first one.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that, I mean, essentially that is what we are gonna do. Is there, how can we go from this variable to a list of all the articles? How can we, what list method can we use for this to help us with this? So this is a list, right? News data, it's a list of objects. What is it? Map, yeah. So what does map do here?
It creates a new list or array based off of whatever parameters you give it.
Yeah, so map is going to loop through every single object in news data and whatever you return inside of here. So in here, it's you can put a callback function. So whatever returns in there will basically be a replacement for the object at that index. So all articles is going to be a new list with like a transformed object, pretty much. So the object won't look like this. It'll look like whatever we define it to be. It could look like this, but we want to only choose specific ones. So map, let me create a callback function here. So in here, map gives us access to the one object. So I'm going to say article. I'm going to call it article because it is a list of articles. You can optionally put an index here. So you can give an alias as I, or you can call it index or whatever it is. But the second parameter here is always going to be the index of that object. Kenneth, filter won't really do what we want it to do. So filter, usually if you have a list and you want to grab only certain items from that list, then you can use the filter. But for here, I want to actually keep, like, let's say I have 30 articles. I actually want to end up with 30 articles. I don't want to end up with a subset of them. But what I do want is, instead of each article looking like this, I want it to have a different form. Maybe I want it to have like 5 different data points that I specify. So I can just kind of, it basically goes through the list one by one. So this list and this list, this is the new list on the site. I hope you guys are looking at me when like demonstrating this. So it takes the first object from here, and then we define what our new object is going to look like based on this. So we'll have the information from here, and then we will make like a copy of it, pretty much, just looking different. So with map, we have the article and the index of every object in that list. And in here, we're going to return a new object, and we will set what each item does. So the first one, let's set an ID. I would say we should have, so the object ID here is a good reference for when we need to use the API. So we should definitely hold on to it. But I would say also we should have an ID relative to this list, because on this website here, we have numbers. So I'm going to use that as the ID for this list. So ID, we have the article index. So I might as well use index to should I do index or index plus one?
+1 unless you want 0.
I think plus one would be cleaner. Oops. Oops, I did, yeah, I meant colon, okay, because that's how objects in JavaScript work. Okay, so we have our ID, we have our title that we want to grab. We want, what else do we want? Let's see. Created at. Maybe we should name this created date. Just because it's easier to understand what it is. Created date, let's say we want the URL and the author as well. So URL, author. So note here, I'm not actually grabbing the information yet. I'm just defining what my new data will look like. So I have an ID, title, created at, URL, author, and then I'm also going to add the object ID. So the object ID is for our reference here. Okay. So how do I actually set the data to be the title? So we have access to our article from our list. How do we use it here? How do we set the title that's in here equal to the title in our new object here?
Could
Maybe
you,
article dot title.
Yeah, so a few people were saying the same thing at the same time. Article dot title. And article dot title is what it is here. I think it will work with the dot. We'll see. We need to adjust that. Okay, so created date, it's created at in our JSON file. So I'm gonna say article dot created at, comma, the URL, the same, article dot URL, article dot author, and then I think object ID is just object ID. Oh, with a capital ID. Article dot object ID. And I think that's all the information that we need. Do you guys think that we should add anything else? I think there's not a lot of stuff that we can grab. Let me see the chat. Yeah, Kayla, so we added the 1. So because the index always starts at 0 and we want our page ID or our article ID to be starting from 1. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Definitely. Okay, so now all of our articles should be in this form, and we can make sure. Let's try to put try to display all articles. I don't know if this will actually work. So I all I did was put it in curly braces and put it inside of my app. I want to see if that works. It does not. Yeah. So you can't just display a list like this. You have to actually put it into an element, or you can display like one string of it, but you can't just do this. So instead, I'm just gonna console log before I return all articles and see what happens there. Okay. I should probably remove this console log because it's going to be the same size of list. Okay, so if I look here, now I have, we started at ID1, I have my title, author, created date. Awesome, so I have all of my information here. Okay. Let's do the same with our sections. The section one will be easy. I'm just gonna get section titles. Actually, let's do that when we do the app nav, because the section titles are only gonna live inside of the app nav. So there's no point in us importing them into the app. Let's see. Gabo, did you make sure to put the return in here inside of this this map? Did you console log below this part? Okay. Are you actually grabbing the information from the news JSON? Like, was it printing here when you did a console log before? It was, okay. Okay, I'll leave this up just to check syntax if anything, but yeah, that is a little weird. We can get back to it. Anyone have any questions?
Can I see any of the components real quick? Sorry.
Which one?
App nav, article.
Yeah.
Just any of those. Oh, thank you.
Gabo, your stuff looks correct. I don't understand why. Oh, it's Kenneth. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Eric. Okay. Let's see. You stayed. Oh, so you don't need to put the list, the square brackets around news data. Try it.
I had a question. Why is this logic going inside of the app.jsx and not one of the other components?
So inside of my app, that's where I want all of my articles to be shown. So I'm not going to create a separate component for this section yet. I'm just going to have my app nav, and then I'm going to have a list of my article teasers here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Glad it worked. All right. Okay, so what can we do with this list? How do we display the list of article teasers?
Pass it as a prop into article teaser.
Okay, so article teaser, is it supposed to handle an entire list of articles, or should it be just handling one article at a time?
I think it should just handle one.
I would agree. So let's define what our article teaser will do. So it'll probably take in, so we can say it'll take in props. We can also define what these props are going to be called. So we can say, we can use kind of like the, not the start operator, but
Destructuring assignment.
thank you so much. Yes. So we can say, my article teaser is going to hold an article. That is what I'm going to send in here. And my article can have, either I can, actually, I won't take in an entire article. I can take in the article information. So in our article teaser, let's say we want our ID. We want to grab a title. We want to get our created date. Yeah, created date, and that's it for now. So let's just say these are the three pieces of information that we care about. So when we're on this end and we're creating an article teaser, we have to send in an ID. We have to send in title. We also have to send in created date. Created date.
Zainab, before we get too far, right there where we made created date, does it matter that in the up in line 17,
Mhm.
where you declared created date as created underscore date?
Yeah.
Does it matter that we're using camel case?
Yes. So I didn't mean to do that. So I wanted to show kind of which ones map to what. So the name over here has to map to the name up here. So whatever name is going to appear in the props is the name that you set over here when you're actually sending the props in. Yeah. So what is yeah, so we need to actually grab this information from the single article, but right now we have a list of articles. How do we loop through all of them in here and create a new article teaser per
A Python for loop?
a Python for loop?
Yes, it'd be a for loop in your
I-
HTML, but Python.
It won't allow us to put it in here, no, because this is JavaScript, like JSX. We're going to be handling the list stuff with like list.map, list dot other things. So inserting logic in here is a little more difficult. You would have to loop through something in a function to do it. So what method
Map.
does give us the looping functionality though?
Map.
Map, yeah. We just used it up here. So map is going to be a very close friend of yours when you're developing these applications. So all articles.map, what this is going to do, it's going to go through all of your articles. It gives you access to one article at a time. Article at a time, and then whatever you put in here, whatever you're returning, is going to be whatever ends up in the list. So we're basically transforming a list of objects into a list of article teasers. We're not transforming the original list, but we are creating a second list that is equivalent pretty much like we did here. So news data stayed the same, but all articles became that new list that we had mapped. So same here, we are mapping through these existing articles, and then we are creating a new component per article. So in here we can have, so this is the way you can do here. So we're looping through all of our articles, and then for each one, we want to create this one row, pretty much. And the way to do that is just by this. So we do this, we take the article teaser, and then we send in to the article teaser the information that we need from this one article that we have. So ID, what is the ID going to be? How do I access it? From my object.
Article.id.
Yep. Article.id. And I do have to put this in curly braces. So here, same with the title. Article.title. And here, article.created date. Okay. So let's see what this does. So pretty much we have our app nav, and then I have a list of articles that is being mapped to a list of article teaser components. So if I go back and I refresh, nothing is displayed. I think I have to put the return here. There we go. So now we have a list of 30 article teasers that are being displayed. Are you saying, oh, Sebastian, like putting a loop in here? Like for each. Is that what you're saying, Sebastian? Yeah. Yes. You can, it's just more code. So you can create a list, or sorry, create a for each loop that does. Actually, I haven't tried using a for loop inside of the elements. I'm assuming it probably works. It's just more condensed to do it this way. So articles, you're going to map through this article and you're going to grab a singular one and then return whatever you want to create. This is just a simpler and cleaner way to do it. Yeah, so we're getting this warning here that each child in a list should have a unique key. We've run into this many times before. The thing that can fix it is we can say key equals, we just have to set a key for each component that we create. So article, we can either use the article ID or we can use the index of the article, whichever we want. I'm just going to use the article ID for this one. So article.id. This is as the key. And then if I go back and I refresh, I don't get the warning anymore. Awesome.
Zainab, I was just gonna ask, is the key and ID both being article ID, like that's kind of redundant, right? Technically, we could use key the way we're using title and create a date when we go inside article teaser.
You can. So like in article teaser, like grabbing the key over here and using.
Right, gotcha. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. That should work. Okay, so we're grabbing our information. Let's go into our article teaser component and we can actually display the information. So inside of this div, I'm going to remove what it says here. I'm going to do say span because I want it inline. So I'll put the ID. Actually, I don't need to put an ID, but if I wanted to, I could. So ID dot, and then I'm going to add the title. I'm going to make this an H1. Actually, yeah, let's not make it a span. We'll just start with a header. We'll do an H2 if we want, doesn't matter. So in here, I'm going to put my ID. I'm going to put a dot next to it. And then I'm going to put the title. There we go. So if we hadn't done this up here, and instead of defining what attributes we're pulling in, we can just say this is props, and then we would say props.id, props.title. But I'm going to go back to this way because we've seen that other one before. Okay, so I'm going to display the title, and then below it, let's say it's a paragraph tag, and I'm just going to put the created date. And don't forget to put it in curly braces. There we go. Okay, so now if I go back, I see a list of titles and then dates. Awesome. If I wanted to, I can give this div a class name. So class name, article teaser. And if I had my app, so I'm going to uncomment the app.css inside of app.js. And then I'm going to go into app.css. I'm going to get rid of everything. Yeah, let's get rid of everything. I'm going to define one called article teaser. And then inside, I'm gonna, maybe I'll just set the background color. The background color to be, I don't know, coral. Let's see what that does. There we go. So now each one of these is going to be its own component. Sometimes it's a little easier to see something with I mean, this color is a little off. We can actually see this one was all one beige-ish color. I guess it's a little beige. But yeah, so you can add your CSS like this. You just create your class names like we've seen before. And then you define your class name in here. And yeah, okay. So we're seeing that. Any questions? I think this is a good stopping point to take a little break.
How weird does CSS get with all of this stuff of like making sure it looks a certain way? Because it seems like it's going through 3 to 4 different, files, or I mean, I guess in this case, 2 files.
Mhm.
And could CSS be super annoying this way?
I don't think so. I think so. A lot of people create a CSS file per component. So you would have in here, like this would be a folder called article teaser, and within it there's a component, and then there's the CSS to that component, and then you only have to import it in here. So the imports maybe would be a little easier. So import, how was it in here? Yeah, it's just the file name. So /, where's my CSS? I think it's one more level up. Oh no, it is right here. I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay. App.css. So yeah, you can just import it here and you don't have to deal with the extra levels. But if you only have one CSS file, it's better to just put it on the top component layer and just let it handle everything else. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just, because when I was playing around with it, trying to make it look a certain way, it seemed like more specifically when I was doing like area, like I want this over here, this over there, it seems like it was like just there's some conflicts. So I didn't know if that was a common thing, but I guess importing it in cases and stuff like that is good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So actually so you can use Bootstrap here. You can import Bootstrap and then use it as regular class names, like we've done before. But Bootstrap actually there's a React Bootstrap, which instead of setting the class names on the components, you can import the components themselves and just use the components. So you don't have to deal with any of the stylings. They have like specific attributes that you can set. So here, if I go to the components, I can see all the components that they offer. Let's say I'm looking at a button and I want one of these buttons. The only difference is, like, let's say this variant attribute. So you import the button, and then when you're using it, you set the attribute to whatever you want to use. So if I want a warning button, this will be all the styling that is built into that button. These are, I think these are pretty popular, like using components instead of using plain Bootstrap. So yeah, like you can have drop downs. It just makes creating these things easier, and styling and stuff like that. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah, Louis.
Yeah, so in line 6, how come like when you put the dot after the ID, it didn't give you an error?
So
Because
in between tags, it accepts strings. So in here, let's say H2. So I could just say 1 dot, this is my title. And that would display a header. So if I go back here, it just displays a header with that text. So in here, yeah, when you put the curly braces, it evaluates that variable and brings out the text of it, pretty much, the string. So what this ends up being is just a big string.
okay, yeah, I misunderstood what the dot was doing.
Okay, yeah, yeah, the dot is just for aesthetic purposes, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's for the display. Yeah. Any other questions?
Could you just show me your CSS file again?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's all I wanted to see. Thank you.
Other questions?